welcome to our celebration of International Women's Day. Feel free to type in the chats where you're watching us from. Is it Kenya? Is it Zambia? Is it the United States? Wherever part of the world that you're from, we would like to know you. Happy International Women's Day to you all. Today we will have conversations around education for equality, both in Kenya and in Zambia. There are immense barriers for girls to pursue an education in our communities, and much of this has been exasperated due to the pandemic. Yet we believe that girls have the right to achieve their academic dreams, which will enable them to have equal rights, form their own solutions, and create pathways for other girls to have opportunities to pursue their dreams. And just to tell you a little bit about who we are Freely in Hope, and we are an organization based in Kenya and Zambia. We equip survivors and advocates to lead in ending the cycle of sexual violence through education, which is basically what we will be sharing more on today. We have an exciting campaign happening where we'll be celebrating Women's History Month. We partnered with Global Giving, who will be matching donations up to 5,000 shillings this week only. If you don't know about them, check them out, Google them. And so this is a way that you can support women and increase your impact. I'll be sharing more details about the campaign later on in the program. But today we will share how education prevents sexual violence for women in Kenya and in Zambia. We will also discuss the importance of a holistic approach to education and engage in survivor-centered solutions that promote equality in our communities. Whether you're from Kenya or Zambia or any part of the world, we are really, really excited to have you here today. My name is Lydia Machioli. I am a Freely in Hope alumni, and I'm currently the program manager at Freely in Hope Kenya, and I'll be your host for tonight. And joining me in this amazing conversation, we have awesome women who are boss ladies, power babes, powerful women. One of them is Magdalene Chikanya, who is a Freely in Hope alumni from Zambia and currently the program coordinator at Freely in Hope Zambia. She pursued a bachelor's in community development, and we're going to hear about her experience of education and what it took for her to get to where she is today. The other amazing lady who will be joining us tonight is Faith Jerry. Faith is a poet, an MC, an actress, a survivor advocate, and a Freely in Hope scholar hailing from Nairobi, Kenya. Faith has a passion to see her community transform, and she is pursuing a degree in counseling psychology. But up first, we have this amazing lady going by the name Joanne Kobudi Kuria, and she is a communications and policy specialist who is passionate about dismantling gender and economic inequalities on the African continent. Joanne is the communications and membership manager at Amnesty International. We are so excited to have her here with us today. And so if you have any questions, feel free to put them up in the chat. We'll get to them later in the program, and these amazing women will get to answer all of your questions. And so to kick us off, Joanne, I'd like to invite Joanne to start having this conversation with me. Joanne, how are you today? Happy International Women's Day, girl.
Thank you. To you too. A nice day for all of us to celebrate.
It sure is. You look amazing.
I mean, I had to just for today. Otherwise, I don't look this amazing. Just for the day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us, how are you? What have you been up to this past 2 months now, right? 2 months of 2021.
I'm good. I'm very well. A lot of work around human rights. As you said, I work at Amnesty International. So it's just human rights violations everywhere that you try to speak into, that you try to intervene. And yeah, that's what I do every day. And I absolutely love it. So yeah, that's basically what I've been up to. A lot of working and a lot of working hopefully a lot of impacts and a lot of changing our society one step at a time.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. To be here today, you're definitely making an impact, and we are just amazed to have you here today. So, Joanne, as an advocate for gender equality, what is the current status of education for girls here in Kenya and Africa generally?
Wow, where do I even start with that question? So let me start with the positives, because I always think sometimes it can be doom and gloom, but there's also a positive side to it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my son is just in the background
Hi, baby.
making
That's
noise.
okay. Mm-hmm.
But I think over the past couple of years on the African continent, we've witnessed a rise, at least in literacy rates amongst girls and amongst
Mm-hmm.
children. I think this is because of policy interventions in some countries. Like, for instance, in Kenya, we've got free primary education. That has really helped level the playing field in a sense. We've seen a rise in access to to education on multiple levels. I remember it was such an interesting memory. I remember a couple of years ago when I was pursuing my first master's, the lecturer had done a survey and had said there are now more women enrolling in master's programs than there are men, and and undergraduate as well. So I think there's also been a rise in education, especially at that level of education. We've also seen girls getting into coding and into STEM learning programs and stuff like that. um, Girls are also passing exams. Girls are topping KCSE. KCSE is, the national examination, former national examination in our country, Kenya, for example. So there have been some gains here and there when it comes to access to education, when it comes to getting into spheres that were previously male dominated, like STEM. But a lot still needs to be done. I don't think we'd be having this conversation today if everything was hunky dory and we had reached our target. So um, I think that girls and young women's access to education, retention, and completion in schools is still it's still a huge concern for us in Africa. Um, Sometimes we hail one of the elements and forget that, okay, we might have access, but do we have retention? If you give an example of the two countries, Kenya and Zambia, retention rates for girls is significantly lower than for guys, and we have a whole myriad of reasons why that is the case. You'll have this number of girls starting school, but by the time they get to this age, but it's boys who just as by the time they get into a sorry, by the time they get into a certain level, we have more boys in schools than we have girls. And then also Africa also has the highest rate of out of school children and adolescents globally, which is an issue. And of course, when you dissect and disaggregate that number, you will find that it's mostly girls than it is boys. And then, of course, when you think about issues such as FGM is a lingering, stubborn vice that we're still grappling with as an African continent, where girls, of course, are forced out of school. We have child marriages that are still very prevalent in Africa. If a child is getting married at 14, there is very little chance that she'll proceed with her education. And then, of course, we've got the issue that I'm really passionate about, which is menstrual health management. And you have girls dropping out as a result of their menses, which in 2021 is just completely, it's sad. It's sad. It's unfortunate and should not be happening, but we still have to contend with some of these issues. So it's a mixture of cultural impediments, societal governance impediments that we sort of like need to talk about and harness. So as much as we are celebrating the good and the stuff that we've been able to achieve so far, we still have a lot to go in terms of figuring out girls' access to education, retention in the system, and of course completion at the end of the day. So that, in a nutshell, is my understanding of the current status of education, not only in Kenya and Zambia, but it's very indicative of very many African countries.
Right. And hearing you speak clearly, we've come a long way, but there still are a lot of barriers that are preventing girls from acquiring an education, especially this period of the COVID-19 era. So what impact do you think COVID-19 has had on education for girls?
You know, it's interesting because COVID-19 came to us very, it caught us unawares, sort of like pants down. But the truth of the matter is situations like COVID-19, so either health pandemic, either a hazard, natural disaster, these have happened before. And what they've taught us is that these are societal, they present societal disruptions that disproportionately affect women, girls, and children, right? So if you think about any disaster, whether it's a hurricane or thankfully, I mean, we haven't had many of those in Africa, but if you think about a disaster, a natural disaster like a drought or a famine, if you think about another pandemic that we had in one region of Africa, which was the Ebola outbreak, which it was 2015, 2016, all of this, and I wish we would be able to capture research and data in a very concise way and disaggregate that research and data from a gender perspective, because this would show us what COVID-19 has shown us, right? So one of the things is just learning from some of these things that have happened in the past. So like, for instance, if you think about the Ebola outbreak in West Africa during that time, women and girls experienced more sexual violence, coercion, and exploitation. And then, of course, when you think about the school closures that we saw during that time with an increase in teenage pregnancies, it's not dissimilar to what we are facing right now in COVID-19 pandemic period. I remember, I think it was last week, I was driving and there was news or something on the radio, and they talked about 10,000 girls being impregnated in one county, a county in Kenya called Trans Nzoia County. And I was like, the math, it just sounds staggering. The math just doesn't add up. And we've had some of those figures being tossed around, and I think a lot of importance needs to be taken for that, because what happens is, if schools are reopened, many visibly pregnant girls will be banned from school. I mean, we've had some ministers of education in some of the African countries saying, no, you just come back, we're going to figure it out, but we don't know if that's going to be the reality, right? So, and then of course there's a stigma around it. So even if you're welcomed back to school, do you really want to go back to school? Because now you're showing you got pregnant, and it's a whole cyclic kind of impact. And I think the socio-economic impact will be more devastating than we are seeing at the moment. Remember, if you got pregnant, mid last year, you haven't given birth yet. So I think in a couple of months, we'll begin to see how devastating this impact is. And if you think about it from a very simple perspective, if you have a family that lives in an informal settlement area, for instance, the dad maybe works in construction, on a construction site, right? And maybe during the COVID-19 period, he wasn't able to go to work because they were not open for business. And the mother was probably working at a house doing some domestic work or something like that. I think their income has gotten affected. And if they have like 2 or 3 daughters, they will now require those 2 or 3 daughters to help to eke a living for the family. And so what happens is, you will see a surge in teenage pregnancies. You will see girls who begin to work and not go back. You will see a rise in prostitution. It's such a vicious cycle, and the socioeconomic impact is so devastating. And I think this conversation and many others like this are so important for us to have.
I totally agree. And I like what you're saying, that the pandemic is just exasperating what is already existing. So yeah, clearly there is a lot to be done with regards to this issue. And so just to bring it a little bit closer to home, making it personal, how has education empowered you personally as a woman? And what do you think will be possible when we educate girls?
Wow, it's given me options. I think it's not even, I don't even have one of those very high level intellectual answers for this one. But I just think it's just given me options, just the ability. And I think we don't even realize how important it is and how valuable it is to have options until you don't have those options. So, I mean, just to be able to decide that I want to take this job and not this other job, or I want to do this master's program or not this other master's program, or I want to it's just that thing for it's in your hands, right? It's given me options. I think something else that it has done for me for sure, it's equipped me with what I need to be able to passionately work. And I take my works really seriously because I love what I do, and I love being in the human rights space, and I love being in the gender equality space. I think it's very critical and very crucial. But it's education that opened these doors for me, because it opened my eyes to societal inequalities and cleavages, and then gave me the voice and the agency to be able to lend my voice and myself and my platforms to these pertinent issues. So yeah, it's and then I think you mentioned it as we were starting in the very nice clip before about just holistic. There's something that education does that just sort of like gives you a holistic perspective to life, and you're able to mount challenges. You're able to move from step to step because you sort of like you've been equipped to do so, right? So for me, I would say that that's what it's done for me for sure.
Wow, I can totally resonate to what you're saying. And you've mentioned holistic, and I want to share a little bit about the holistic education that Freely in Hope provides. I'll get back to Joanne later on in the program, but I was privileged to be part of the scholarship program that Freely in Hope provides. And Freely in Hope believes in the possibilities of educating girls, and it acknowledges that access to education has the potential to prevent women from the vulnerabilities that result from poverty, including sexual abuse and re-abuse. And since the inception of the scholarship program 10 years ago, what I love about Freely in Hope is that it realized tuition fees, just paying for tuition fees is not enough. More has to be done for a girl to study effectively and to thrive. And so Freely in Hope provides an all-round education needs for all our scholars. And on top of the tuition fees, it includes counseling to ensure that the psychosocial well-being of a scholar is taken care of. There is mentorship where scholars are exposed to other women who have gone before them to be inspired and to be exposed to many, many opportunities. There is safe housing where we ensure that our scholars are not vulnerable to abuse or re-abuse. We also ensure that we take care of their healthcare, because being a survivor and coming from very marginalized communities, there are a lot of health complications that arise as a result of that. And so we like to ensure that all our scholars are well taken care of health-wise. We also offer legal aid for those whose cases are still in court, or for those who are thinking about pursuing their cases, or new cases that we want to pursue. We do that. We ensure a girl has upkeep, because sometimes you pay for school fees, but a girl doesn't even know how to get to school. There's no transport money, they can't afford food. And so when we give a little stipend for upkeep, this sort of caters for all that, and the girl is able to be fully present in class. And then we also offer a community of belonging, which is a very, very important factor. This community of belonging is where all of our scholars learn about advocating for themselves and for others in their communities, because many of the scholars, when they come into our program, they talk about how they want to give back to the community. They want to pursue justice for other girls. And so this community of belonging provides a platform where they can learn, develop skills to really do that. So yeah, and talking about holistic education program, I want to invite these two amazing ladies who, like me, have had an opportunity to be part of this scholarship program. And for Faith, she is still a scholar, and for Elena, she's an alumni. And so I want us to hear from their experiences. So hey, ladies, welcome back. Hey, Faith.
Hi, Lydia.
Elena, you look amazing. I love that head wrap.
Thank you.
I learned how to do a head wrap. So you teach me. And so maybe we can start with you, Faith. What's been a struggle that you faced while pursuing your education?
I faced a lot of struggles, But like what I would just what I would list at the highest was like lack of school fees. I used to be chased out of school. I don't feel ashamed saying this because like when you are supported, you have to prove it in all ways. The teacher used to come to class with a list of people who have not paid, and I would be on the top of the list all the time. I would be told to go home. Going home, you don't know where you're going. As in, you left when your house was almost to be closed because of lack of rent. At the same time, as in you didn't even carry the shopping with you, because like the money that was available was only meant to cater for your fare only, and the others, as in, you just have to go to school and just survive on the way you can. At the same time, they, as in, your mom feels that they have tried all their level best, so you can't even blame them because it's just the level of poverty that is in your home, and like you can't run away from your home and go pretend another house is yours. So you just have to live by it the way it is, but it's not easy. You feel you get ashamed, as in you get undermined. Sometimes you fail your exams just because like when the concept was being taught, you are at home being chased out of school because of school fees, and when you come back you find people have finished the syllabus and you don't know where to start from. So it's real, as in lack of school fees is a big deal, because like until you are in that shoe, that's when you can understand, because like saying it is sounds easy. Lydia, you can prove that, but when you are in that shoe, you feel it, as in, like it's not a joke. The other one was like lack of shopping. Can you imagine being in school without anything, as in literally anything? You're just like people are coming full packed with their items all over, as in carrying their shopping, their soap and everything, and you just coming with your books, the God granted books. That's the only thing you have. So you just have to come. You wait for people. When people are washing clothes, you wait for them at least to forget the soap. Then you will just go collecting the remaining ones so that you can at least you can wash your clothes. So it was not easy at the same time. Then being having come from a survival, having come from being a survivor, it even make it worse, because you start feeling like you are not like other girls. Start feeling that this this happened to you, that's why you're passing through this. Yeah, you start connecting things. So this is where counseling comes. So as in when I was in that position and I didn't have counseling, I used to cry all the times. I don't fail to say this. I used to cry. I used to, self-esteem was like, I think 5% or maybe less, because I was feeling like I'm not like other girls. Then when I start adding up, I'll start feeling like, so this happened to me, that's why I am like this. So it was not easy until I got support. Like I got support, at least someone can come as a counselor to school just to see Faith. So I started seeing myself like someone somewhere. So then they would come, Living Hope would come, they would talk to us, they would like call us out and like get to know how we feel, as in what we want, as in any change we would want. They were always there for us. They not only paid for our school fees, as Lydia said, but also they ended up giving us shoppings and sometimes paying for like for our trip, so that we can feel like we are among other girls. We can feel that we are involved. We can feel that we are important. Not only our work was not only like maybe attending maybe court cases. but we had more, as in we could go to trips in school, we could study like any other person, we could feel the feeling at school and like feel involved. It was, as in, Feeling Hope, I can say Feeling Hope changed my life. They changed my life. At least right now I can smile, I can laugh, because I remember I never even thought that I can be a poet. I never thought I can be anything in this world. But one day Nicole came to our school and said like, oh, she just called us like normal and started talking to us, asking us how the school has been, because it was a new school, and like we could share the challenges of being in the new environment and everything. Then she told me to say a poem. As in, I told her I have a poem, because she was so close to me such that I was able to open up and say that, oh, you know what, I can say a smile poem. And the same time I started saying a smile poem, I ended up being a poet, an actress, the loudest girl,
Wow.
and everything. So that was the product of just saying a line of a one poem. And she ended up pushing me to write more poems. So I am a poet. I have written a lot of poems and I'm proud of myself. So, and then I would say
Wow.
a lot like safe housing. I didn't, as in, let me just say this. Last weekend I was at
Wow,
home.
Faith. We
I
are
like
proud
talking
of you.
so
Look
much.
at you now. We love that
Thank you
about you.
so
I
much.
remember when you came in, you
Thank
would not
you.
even say your name. Here you are going on and on. That's a plus,
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're really
Yeah.
proud of you, and we can see the impact that education has had on your life. And Elena and I can totally relate to some
Mm-hmm.
of the struggles that you've mentioned. You can imagine the principal coming into class with this book of those who have not paid, and your heart just starts pumping because you know you're gonna go out, and then there will be no consistency in you catching up with your study. So it was a lot of hassle. And so I'm really glad that Freely Hope came to the rescue. And so, Elena, which of the benefits provided by Freely in Hope? I know Faith has mentioned some of them. So, which among these benefits have you found most beneficial as a woman and a survivor, and why?
Sweet. Thank you so much, Lydia. I think I'll speak to two, maybe three, we'll see. But the whole holistic approach to scholarship for me was really beneficial. So with the holistic approach to scholarships, I'm just going to pick three or four maybe. The three are: one, the tuition fee. As Faith and Lydia has already alluded to, that was a very big factor, especially coming from a household that is kind of like in need, like coming from a poor background, so to say. So tuition fee, as Faith clearly stated it, was a big thing where you go to school and you just know. When for us in Zambia, usually they chase you when exams or tests are about to start. So you know you're not even going to write those tests, because every day a teacher will come and then they'll call out the list and you'll be out of the classroom. So for me, like really tuition fee was a big factor, because then it was attached to a lot of things, which I am going to explain in just a bit. The other thing that was really important for me was healthcare. So for me, coming from being sexually abused, for the first time, I was sexually abused twice. So from the first sexual abuse that I suffered, right, I became sick, so I used to faint. I started fainting when I'm at school or when there's just a lot of stress and pressure. So think about the pressure of going to school knowing they're going to chase you and you need to write the exams that you've been studying for so long, right? And then they chase you out of school. You do not have food, you didn't eat from home, and I used to walk quite a distance to school. So I went to school on an empty stomach. I haven't eaten. I have no packed food to eat, and then they chase me. I just would get like really sick from all the trauma that I had from the abuse, you know, because there was a lot of baggage that came with that. There was a lot of unspeakable things that came with that. Together with all that, there was a lot of name calling from the community that was supposed to actually support me. So then I used to get sick and faint. So coming into Freely in Hope family, you know, healthcare was a big thing that I was given, right? So I used to go to hospital and I was provided with that healthcare. But like Faith also mentioned, together with it came safe housing. And with safe housing in Freely in Hope, it's not just an environment of safety, but it's also the food that is needed for you to be sustained and to better study, right? So with all that, I was able to study better. You look at my grades from when I was in high school, when I was not receiving all this support, like you would not even see Elena coming to be, right? Because there was so much trauma, there was so much that I was carrying, there was a lot of shame again, and a lot of name calling from that I didn't even want to be seen. And then I go to university and I'm receiving the holistic approach to scholarships, and I'm the A student in my class. You know, like I'm one of those top, because there's all these supports that I am receiving. And I am really grateful for that, like really, really grateful for that. Another thing that I want to speak about coming into the Freely in Hope family and being a scholar myself is the community-led programs, community and survivor-led programs. Because through these two platforms, the community and the survivor-led programs, I was able to echo my voice, to be an echo in someone's life, right? Because through these two services that Freely in Hope provides, I was able to start up a program in my community in Kalingalinga and in Tendere called Super Girls Revolution. So the program is basically a sexual prevention program that equips survivors to become advocates in their communities. And within this program, what we do basically is we provide a safe space to share stories, because I believe we all have beautiful stories that we all need to share to actually impact each other's lives as advocates and survivors. Through this platform as well, we equip our girls to shine their light. So be the leaders that they want to be in their community, be the change that they want to see in their community. So if it wasn't for me receiving the holistic support, again, to scholarships, I was not going to be a survivor advocate in my community and be making the impacts that this far we have been making in each other's lives, because the people that we reach out to in this program speak to my life as I speak to theirs. So those are the few that I can mention looking at time.
Wow, so profound. Wow, Elena. And we do not even need to go any further to look for examples of how education empowers women. We have them right here, right now, speaking out loud, using their voices. And Elena, I love what you've said in terms of the advocacy platforms that we have. Similarly, I remember when I was coming into the scholarship program, I had all these ideas that I wanted to pursue. You know, I want to start this program in high school that will end sexual violence, but I did not know how. I had no idea how to do it. And so when I got the opportunity to go to university to study gender, to know how what is program design and project management, we were able to give birth to all many amazing programs at Freely in Hope, including violence prevention programs for high schools. And so that is a factor that really stood out for me too. And the mentorship that we get, you know, you get to be connected to women who are doing what you love, who are out there, women who are exposing you to all these resources and all these tools for you to learn about your field of interest. I think we are the women that we are today because of, you know, this holistic model of education. Because if it was just paying school fees, you know, we would just go to class and that's it. You know, we would still be struggling with all these factors behind the scenes, worrying about where our next meal would be coming from, worrying about our transportation. But then by all this having been taken care of, we were able to fully be present in our academic endeavors, you know. And so I really, really appreciate this model. And now that we're having conversations around the barriers to education, these are some of the ways that all the people that are in the education sector can start thinking about shifting their focus from education being, we've paid school fees, go to school, to now this all-round approach of what else do we need to do for this girl to be fully present in class, because as Joanne mentioned, there's so many things that are happening. Girls are getting pregnant, there's no retention. All these have root causes, there's poverty in their families. They are all struggling with different things. And so when we look at these things, at these barriers from an all-round approach, I think we'll be able to curb so many cases of losing girls at an early age, and so many girls will be able to thrive through their education. So yeah, I'll ask one last question. So there are so many glass ceilings that need to be shattered for women, and we've talked about some of them. There's the gender pay gap, there's so much sexual reproductive health rights. There's just so much. And education, we definitely see education plays a big role in shattering this glass ceiling. So maybe Faith, how have you seen this in your own life? How has education shattered some of these glass ceilings that are a barrier for women to thrive in their education and all other endeavors? Sorry, Faith, you're on mute. Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Lydia, for this question. Yeah, education has sometimes some things that we hold on shatter our dreams. Only when we study, that's when we can be able to deal with those barriers. Like I can say, our tradition, mostly we are so much grounded in our tradition in such a way that if we don't get a chance to go to school, as in this can affect us so much. As like I was saying earlier, sometimes you can our tradition can, as in, make us feel that girls, education for girls is not so much valued. So when you're so much when you get grounded in that education, you will end up, when you get grounded in that mentality, you can even get lost, because you will end up knowing that you are just meant to be like to finish school, or like not to study, just get married on your early age and like give birth to more children and just raise them in the village. So like until when you go back to school, that's when you will see, as in, there is a bit of change. Because I have seen girls and I have witnessed girls getting out of school just to get married. Some of them it's because they follow a culture. Some of them it's because their parents have said so, and some of them it's because they feel that that is what is right for them. So they end up giving out education just either for marriage or either for giving birth to kids of which they don't know how or where to raise them from. So they just follow the culture, which end up affecting them. I'm not lying, as in, even if right now I can check some of the people that I noticed them quitting education just because of marriage or pregnancy, or like maybe things like FGM, they end up like regretting later, and sometimes they are left behind with technology, because you will not grow, like you will just know what you know, and nothing else will make sense to you, because you feel that what you know is right. And as I was saying, then as in, it's better somebody who is willing to learn than somebody who feels that they have learned it all, because you will just feel that what the culture is saying and everything that the culture is doing is right. You don't know, you don't want to find out the truth, or you don't want to find out anything different. You just feel that what the culture holds is right for you, and you feel that you are okay with it. So when I joined school, at least I was able like to distinguish between like being grounded with culture. Like, as for me, when I finished Form 4, I got abused and I got a child. So I was like, if I didn't get a chance to go back to school, I would either be married with like 4 kids to 5 kids. But since I managed to go back to school, that's why I can be able to be a survivor advocate, a psychologist, to counsel someone who is in that position like me, and to tell them that education is important, and like education is the only weapon that can help you fight. Because as women, we are termed to be so vulnerable, like in all, as in our communities, they feel that we are so vulnerable, and the only weapon that you can work with is education, because that is the only thing that is structured in a way that can can support us or can protect us.
Right. Yeah, that's a very good answer, Faith. Culture is very deeply rooted. You know, we all come from different backgrounds, and it's years and years and years of learning all these practices, and some of them are very, very retrogressive. You know, they're harmful to our lives as women. And so, like you're saying, when you go to school, you're able to know what is wrong, what is right. School sort of opens up, you know, your perspective. You get to see what some of these practices do to you as a woman, and how they stop you as a woman from becoming the person that you want to become. um, Elena, we would love to hear from you. How have you seen this in your own life? You know, all these glass ceilings
Wait,
being shattered. Mhm.
thank you so much, Lydia. So I think now that I am in the corporate world, I mean, I am a Freely in Hope alumni, but now programs coordinator. I think I want to speak a little bit on both ends. So the first part that I want to speak to is just the patriarchy. Of course, the patriarchy, or the gender disparity itself. When I was a scholar for my thesis, for my degree level, what I did was to kind of assess the impact of sexual violence, the impact sexual violence has had on my community, Kalingalinga and Mutendere. And in my research, something that really came up very strong was gender disparity, the patriarchal side of the coin, right? So when you get to the corporate world, how we are seeing the patriarchy play out is people will be in positions of power, right? A few women, of course, a lot of men in those positions of power, and they're sitting in a boardroom, right, where decisions are made. But if there is something that needs to happen, maybe tea needs to be passed to the executive director, the woman in the boardroom is expected to save that tea. Like, we are all here to make productive decisions because we all have brains. So why am I supposed to be the one to save your tea? You know, so I see this play out, and it has come out a lot with my sisters. It's been a complaint that they've brought about. Attached to the patriarchy as well is the sexual harassment. If a woman is to get a promotion in the workspace, you know, they need to kind of serve a service to someone else instead of looking at the hard work and the productivity that they are adding to the company or to the organization. That's the reason why I love working with women that we're working with, because we are all noticing each other as productive vessels. Like, we are making decisions together, and together we're moving this boat to greater heights. So like, I think that's something that needs to continuously break and change. And education, of course, is a key factor I have noticed, because I have in school taken courses that have actually empowered me to notice the gender gap, all the inequality that is happening, and so I can better voice up and fight for my rights, because I deserve, equally as a man, the opportunities of power to drive productivity. So that's the one thing that I will speak to. The second thing that I want to highlight, especially when I was at school, is expectation, right? With women in school, the expectation is they're not going to do better because they're women. There's a lot going on. I'm not going to deny there was a lot going on with me, even when I was at school. And with being, being in Freely in Hope as a scholar, some of that was, I was helped with to like offload it in therapy, you know, so the counseling aspect of our holistic approach to education. But then there's so much expectation that is laid on the woman to do, right? Other than the man. The man is just expected to study and that's it. But the woman is expected to do all these other things. And then again, they degrade us. Like, we are not going to be, we are not going to become, we are not going to be who we want to be. We're not going to evolve at all, right? Because of all these societal expectations that are laid on us. So with being in school, I have seen that ceiling actually break for myself, because I was able to stand up for myself and say, I know I need to do this and I know I'm going to do it. But man, I am also going to make my grades and I'm going to pass. So stay off my back and watch me rise to the top. So these two, I think, are factors that, glass ceilings that continuously need to break for women as we hold each other's hands, also as women, to uplift our voices and get to the top, to make those decisions. Right. Yes, Nico always says we need women to rise to positions of power where decisions are made. And I have seen myself rise to that position and be able to make powerful decisions that impact communities.
Yes, well said, Elena, well said. And education gave you that voice, you know, it gave you that voice. And that's why we're really advocating for education for girls all over the world, not only in the African continent, all over the world, because it helps you nurture your natural gifts in advocacy and any other thing that you want to do. And it helps you set your own expectations, you know. You don't have to go with what the society expects you to be. You know, women should be like this, women should be like that. No, you set your own expectations. You set the bar high for yourself, and you achieve it. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Thank you, ladies, for that awesome insight. And at this point, I want to bring Joanne back. And Joanne, having had these amazing ladies speak, whew, it's a lot of powerful information. Joanne, what do you hope to see in the next generation of women? And how does the work of Freely in Hope contribute to that?
I don't even think it's a hope. I mean, after Elena and Faith, like in my mind, I was just thinking, I've had the longest day. It's 8:53 p.m. in Kenya, but this conversation is giving me such warm fuzzies. It's not even a hope anymore. I don't even think it's something that I aspire to that I haven't seen. I can't possibly believe, I've not met Elena and Faith before, but I can't possibly believe that they are victims of sexual violence. Just because I know the impact that can have on you, yet they are vibrant, they are confident, they know what they want, they are getting there, they are able to articulate it. And so I feel like this interview, this conversation should end for now, because they've literally said everything. I'm just, to be honest, I'm in a space of complete awe. And when I was thinking about this question as you answered it, I was like, okay, I guess I'd want to see women who are unapologetic and are comfortable in their femininity. These two women are. I'd love to see women who support other women. These two are. Elena is, hoping to do a whole lot more and is continuing to do a whole lot more after being given by Freely in Hope. I want to see women who chart their own path. These two women are charting their own paths. And as I said, I feel like sexual violence of whatever kind has a very cruel way of stripping one's dignity, one's agency, one's voice, one's confidence. But oh my gosh, but seeing what Freely in Hope has been able to do this through these women is completely astounding. I feel like through the holistic approach that they've both talked about endlessly, from providing therapy, oh my gosh, mental health and well-being is so critical and is so important. Providing legal aid so that I'm not thinking about, okay, this perpetrator may be still after me. What's the recourse? What's justice? How does that justice look like? I think it's Elena who called it Freely in Hope Family. That just made me feel a type of way, because she doesn't, I think it's almost like Freely in Hope is more than an organization, right? Or an NGO. It's a place where you belong. It's a place where not only are you given the power, the tools, the voice, the agency, the confidence, the everything, which are intangible things, but you're also given the education, which we're all seeking. Then you're given the package that comes around with the education, which is the support, the food, the health, the safe houses. And I'm like, I mean, I feel like this whole world should have a Freely in Hope in their country, you know, because I completely love the holistic approach, and like sitting here as a person who actually sits on the board, I shouldn't be this impressed. I should probably be nodding and saying, yeah, that's what Freely in Hope does. But I'm completely awed. And if Faith and Elena are testaments to the women that we are honing and growing, and you, Lydia, as well, then I think I'm comfortable. I think tomorrow we look a whole lot different, because Faith is now a poet. She wasn't able to speak in public before. She was a bit shy before, and then now she's speaking, and she's completely, going all out. And Elena is here challenging patriarchy and talking about systems and structures and the gender wage gap. I'm like, what? I'm completely amazed, and I think that Freely in Hope are completely on the right track in not only providing the family that they've talked about, but also the holistic education approach. And Lydia, you are right. This is what policy conversations at the top should be about. It's not just about education for, okay, 5 girls have gone through education. Is that really enough when they don't have menstrual products? Is it really enough when they go to school hungry? Is it really enough when, as Elena said, you go to school and you're traumatized, you have a mental issue of whatever kind or a health issue? Is it really, really enough? And so I'm hoping that women like Faith and Elena and yourself and myself and Nicole and whoever else can be in those positions, those offices of power, that we can actually dismantle these structures that are not really helping and inculcate structures and systems that Freely in Hope has clearly shown us is possible.
Wow. And mind you, these are just 2 of them. We
I
have
know.
so many more from our community.
I'm flustered, I'm
so
overwhelmed. It's amazing.
And I like what you said about we should have Freely in Hope everywhere in the world. That's the goal. That's
as a bare necessity. Yeah.
We really hope all these other organizations in education sectors will consider adapting this model, because we've seen it doing magic to our community, and so we hope to trickle it down to other communities all over the world. And so it's about that time to share with everyone who has joined us ways in which they can contribute to girls achieving equality. So Joanne, do you want to highlight a few of those, and then I'll go deeper?
Well, I mean, generally, from a very macro perspective, I think there's a myriad of ways that you can contribute. I mean, wherever you are, challenge gender stereotypes, that people, or biases that people have. Don't let a person say, even if it sounds very harmless, like, women can't drive, ha 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 ha. It can be just like a joke that's just said, or women are not good enough leaders, and you're sitting in that space, you're not challenging any of those stereotypes. So I think from a very basic level, just challenge any gender stereotypes that you hear of, that you come across. I think also, in addition to challenging, is contribute to a positive gender narratives, right? So wherever you are, I think everybody has a sphere of influence. Now with social media, we don't have just certain media houses that are the conduit of information. We all are media houses in our own extents and scopes with our platforms and stuff like that. Contribute to these conversations and spur some thought and and stuff like that around gender issues. I think also educate yourself. I think it was you, Lydia, who talked about ignorance, and ignorance is a really powerful tool for oppression, and for passing passing along disinformation and fake news and stuff like that. So yeah, so I think educate yourself as well. Include men in this conversation. For the longest time ever, we have such conversations in the exclusion of men. And the truth of the matter is, a man is either a perpetrator, a man is either a person who sits in the policy space, in decision-making spaces. And the more they understand about these issues, the more they interact and interrogate these issues, the better. But you know what? If all of these things sound so hard and so difficult and so out of reach for you, how about support an organization like Freely in Hope? I've sat here, as I said, I'm an insider of Freely in Hope, and yet I still feel awed by the contribution they are making towards gender equality, specifically in education for women in Africa, in Kenya and Zambia. So how about you go and support Freely in Hope through a donation to support the work that they're already doing? They already have the structures, they already clearly have the leadership, and they have testimonials that we have witnessed and interrogated right now during the call. So supporting them would then perhaps enable them to double, triple, quadruple their impact, their reach, their scope. I talked about having a Freely in Hope in every African country. That can be a reality if we have people contributing to the larger cause. So yeah, so I do feel that if nothing at all, just get into your wallet, get into your Mpesa, your Airtel money, and send a contribution today, because unlike 1,000 shillings that you're going to spend at a restaurant buying a drink, a meal, or whatever, this is going to impact the life of somebody else and another generation. Like, if that's not impactful enough for you, I don't know what is. But you actually have the possibility to do that. And I love the fact that they're an organization that's open to that, because they don't do it alone. They actually want you to come on board and say, I support Freely in Hope. So yeah. So amongst the very many ways of doing that, I think for me would be, these guys have the structures. Why not support them? Why not donate to an organization like Freely in Hope today and change the lives of not one, not two, but a number of girls and families for generations to come?
Yeah, thank you so much, Joanne. And talking about funding education to uplift and promote equality for women, here is how you can help us continue with this awesome cause of giving an all-round education to girls. So number one, you can donate through Mpesa or through a link that will be shared on your screen. And this week only, Global Giving is providing a 50% match on all donations. Remember the campaign that I was talking about? From Monday to Friday, all donations that will be given, Global Giving is matching them up to 50%. And so you can give 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, up to 5,000 Kenya shillings. 1,000 shillings will provide learning materials for one scholar per month. 2,000 Kenya shillings will provide healthcare for one scholar per month. 3,000 Kenya shillings will provide counseling, and 5,000 Kenya shillings will provide essentials like upkeep, making sure they have transportation to go to school, food, and all the necessities that they need. The other way that you can support us and be part of education for equality is share this information with your friends, to invite them to fund education for equality. So you can help us share this poster with your friends, tell a friend to tell a friend. And then the third way is you can join our Facebook groups in your specific country. We currently have a Facebook group in Kenya and in Zambia. So Freely in Hope Kenya, Freely in Hope Zambia. Join these groups and let's continue these conversations on advocacy. You will get updates on what's going on in our Freely in Hope community and many other ways that you can be engaged. Our goal is to raise 500,000 shillings this week, and your donation will provide critical support in making this dream a reality. So kindly donate. And there's a question that came up, and just to wrap this up, and I want Elena to answer this. So Elena, how can someone support or encourage survivor of sexual violence in their current spaces?
Just listen. I think the best support that I wanted when I was still dealing with my traumas. Of course, not that I'm done dealing with them, but when they were so fresh and most of them were not dealt with, was someone to listen. Most people that were in my circle or in my space really came to be or turned out to be very judgmental, very shaming, and they provided solutions for everything. Oh, yeah, we need to do this, like in that space and at that time, I didn't need solutions because I was not seeing them. I just needed someone to listen to me. So if you're in a space with a survivor currently, I think the best thing you can do is listen. And if there was a question that you wanted to say or to ask, is how best can I continue supporting you? I think that's the question that would be very helpful.
Yeah, listen. And in listening, you will get to hear about what a survivor needs to thrive. It's so sad that we are concluding this awesome conversation. Honestly, I did not want it to end. There's so much power. I told you these are boss babes, boss ladies doing amazing things in their communities. And we're so grateful to every single one of them for sharing their insight with us. And again, I remind you, please be part of our campaign this week. Donate. This will go into helping us raise other women like Elena and Faith, women who will be out there challenging systems of oppression, and we need you. We cannot do this alone. We need you to be part of this. And so I invite you, and this can be a way in which you can stand with survivors and support this cause and support women, especially during this Women's History Month. Other than that, it's been such a pleasure to be your host tonight for those of us in Kenya and in Zambia, and maybe this morning for the rest of the people outside Zambia and Kenya. It's been a pleasure. I'd like to give a special thanks to Elena, to Faith, and to Joanne. You rock. You ladies rock, and we cannot wait to see the amazing things that you will continue to do. And the power that you give out to the world. All in all, thank you all for joining us. We hope that you will join our Facebook groups to be updated with everything that's going on. And we hope to catch up soon on another event to have these amazing conversations that will bring education for equality. Thank you all. Good night for those of us in Zambia and Kenya, and have a great day for those of us in the United States.